Basically, world cinema is a more rounded phenomenon. In Hollywood, they only have happy endings, and it's a much more artificial and benevolent view of society, whereas in world cinema, it's more realistic.
I don't think there's much difference in terms of, you know, what the quality they produce. I mean, Hollywood gets a bit of a bashing for being populist, but that's because lots of people want to watch it, and maybe some people have a sort of a slightly, you know, wrong opinion of world cinema, thinking maybe it's all low budget or all, you know, niche, but that's really not the case. You know, I think we've seen quite a lot of films recently that have proved you can be a world cinema movie and still break it big and win huge numbers of awards.
Yeah, I mean, I really like French films, Chinese films, Japanese. Yeah, it just seems, you know, like any French film I watch, for example, it's not got the big soundtrack in the back, you know, the action, you know, it's just a lot more dialogue, it's a lot more sophisticated.
I mean, first off, you'd think lower budget. Typically, at least the look of the film, often the sets are lower budget, unless you're talking about like Bollywood films or a lot of the new Hong Kong sort of cinema films. You think higher budget, or obviously European films. You kind of throw in the higher end of things.
Hollywood obviously has a huge budget behind it and the marketing machine goes into overdrive. It's all over the place, banners, trailers, it's really forced home with lots of big effects and stars to try and pull the people in. Whereas I think world cinema and some of the other films work on a much smaller budget with little known stars, but sometimes the quality of acting is just phenomenal. And you almost get a gritty realism with some world cinema films that just often isn't there with some of the more Hollywood films. And actually, I think my opinion of it comparing quite favourably works quite well, because if you look at how the box office takings on these films, there's been some real shining stars that have come from world cinema, made on hardly anything and a fortune turned over.
I would say I probably don't see that many Hollywood films, so perhaps that would show that my bias towards European or world cinema.
Well, it's less commercial, I suppose, less blockbusters. I think it's definitely art cinema versus marketing, really big budget. What do you think, Claire?
Well, I think you get to see lots of new actors, and also I think, like Raf was saying, talking about the art, there's lots of references to certain cultures that you wouldn't see in Hollywood, because it tends to be the big blockbusters with kind of themes that people are interested in as a generic population rather than specific individuals.